Hey, Adam, welcome to the Think Business with Tyler podcast show. How's it going?
It's great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. So, just a little backdrop before we get into more about you. You were kind enough to allow me to be on your podcast. You have a really successful and very entertaining podcast called the Masters of Home Service podcast. So that's just how we got to know each other. And I thought you were a great guy. Tell us a little bit about you. I mean, both professionally, and then I'd love to know a little bit about you personally.
Okay. So you and I met in Vegas,
Yeah.
filming the Masters of Home Service podcast for Jobber. And I'm the host of that podcast. It comes out every Tuesday, and I'm really a huge fan, but we'll get into that. So I'm just a normal guy with two businesses and a wife and four kids, and I'm super happy. And I live in Virginia, and I started Charlottesville Lawn Care about 10, 11 years ago. And that business has never really taken off huge or anything. It's a 400,000 revenue this year business, only a couple people, but it's pretty profitable, which took me a while to get there. And it doesn't take a whole lot of my time right now, which is nice. And then my Charlottesville Gutter Pros business, so I do gutters and grass, and my gutter business took off, spun out of my lawn care business about 3.5 years ago, and that's what takes more of my time at this point.
And is that the larger of the two entities or
That's
the two
bigger.
businesses?
Yeah, we did about
Yeah.
1.2 last year,
Wow.
and we're not looking at any more revenue this year, unfortunately, just because, well, that's a different story. But we'll hit about 1.1, 1.1, 1.2, hopefully with one fewer staff member, and so it's gonna be a little tighter on the profits on that, and then get some other systems in place, and then hopefully scale it to next year.
Yeah. Um, Few questions. First, I want to talk about this whole home service business category of services. What's your thoughts around that? Like, is that, I get quite a few people that come to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this," or "Hey, I am doing this, but it's really competitive and I'm not making any money." And it's usually a lot of times it's in the home service business. So
Mm.
what's your thoughts around that? Like, is this you have two different niches, so you have a lot of experience. Is it a lucrative area to be in? Is it hyper competitive? What any commentary or words of wisdom you can give us?
Just like everything else, I think some people make a killing and some people are killed. I think just like anything else, it can be a win or a lose game. I think there's a tremendous upside in home service. Some of the biggest companies that I know of that aren't, Walmart and Chick-fil-A are home service companies. Leaf Filter is a gutter company. They're the biggest trade in the country. They're $1 billion gutter company. They sell leaf filter, but there's humongous plumbing and HVAC companies. So I think home service is a great place to be in. Mike Rowe is popular. He's made this whole idea popularized. Like, instead of sending your kid off to college to get a degree to make $35,000 a year, how about you send him to be a locksmith and make 300,000 a year? And then set his own schedule, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a tremendous value in it. But just I think like anything else, it has unique struggles. I think the problem that people face is they get into it with what Michael Gerber calls the technician mentality, where they have they have a seizure, entrepreneurial seizure, and they think, oh, that my boss is an idiot. I can do this better than he can. And then they go off on their own, and then they flop because all they want to do is just do the work. They don't want to build a business as an asset. And so I think someone goes into home service with that kind of mentality, they shouldn't, and they should work for somebody else and just be happy. But if someone really wants to build a business, then I think there's tremendous opportunity in home service.
Yeah, that's great. That's great thoughts around that technician mentality. I think that can only take you so far unless you kind of stand back and think bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of your own journey from lawn care to gutters, did you start out lawn care first, or is that what you said? You started out with lawn
Lawn
care and
care
then
was
you went?
first, yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
what was your strategy? Like, I mean, how do you start with lawn care and then you go into gutters? I mean, does that just you saw a natural opening for the market there, or did it somehow one feeds off the other?
So that's a great question. I, like most lawn care guys, I started when I was 11. And there's a certain point once I got older when I had to decide, okay, am I going to actually do this or am I going to go do something else? Like go get a real job or something. And so when I was about 22, when I had this pretty big life event when everything was broken, everything was bad. And I said, am I really going to do this? And long story short, I decided to double down and make it a real business. But I just started out like most people do, just cutting their neighbor's grass, which is part of the reason in lawn care that entrepreneurial seizure is very prevalent in my industry because the barrier of entry is so low. But here's the thing: we're still serving people, and as long as you're serving someone, it can be whatever you're doing. I told the guys this morning. I said, guys, you're not just cleaning gutters; you're serving people. and you just happen to clean gutters. And so it's no different. But so I started lawn care just as a outcropping of my youth. But then about in 2020, I met a guy named Donovan Quessenberry, who's down in North Carolina, and he was telling me he was doing big bucks in gutters. So I went down to visit him for the whole day. I watched him in his crews, and they just crushed it. They slayed the beast, dragged it home, and had a feast that night. I just couldn't believe how well they did. And so I went out the next day and started Charlottesville Gutter Pros, essentially, officially 6 months later. And so that was, I didn't really want to do it as a umbrella service of lawn care. I don't like this whole idea where like the lawn care guy does the gutters. I think that's stupid. It's like, well, does the lawn care guy do the plumbing and the HVAC too? Like, why does the lawn care guy do the gutter? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I started two separate companies to serve two different people and provide two different services.
So when you say that, they don't, in other words, when you go do gutter cleaning, you're not pitching lawn care. Is that what you mean? You're kind of
Not,
keeping them.
it comes up some, but not intentionally. No, they're
Got
completely
it.
separate. They're
Got
completely
it.
separate.
In terms of the gutter, is your team cleaning them, or are you actually replacing them too, or a little bit of
We
everything?
do it all. So
Okay.
we do cleaning, install, repair. We even do underground drains, which some of your listeners may not even know what that is. But like
Yeah.
in our part of the country, we have a lot of the gutters will go down into the ground. There'll be a black corrugated pipe, and it'll go out away from the house, takes the water away, and those get clogged and messed up. So we fix those, and we can really do it all.
Wow. In terms of margin, is there better margin in cleaning them, or is there better margin in replacing them? What's that look like?
That's a good question. So the margin actually comes out to be very similar because
Really?
cleaning has no material cost and installs and repairs does. So if you factor the materials cost, then cleaning is pretty sweet because there's just, you go out there and clean, it's all labor. With
Right.
installs, it's both, it's labor and materials. But if we could fill our schedule with installs all day long, I mean, I would prefer that. But cleaning is just so simple and
Right.
easy that I like both. But the
Well,
profitability is a little bit higher on the install.
okay. And I imagine from the cleanings, is it fair to say that's where you get a lot of your installs or your
Yeah, it's
replacements?
an
Okay.
upsell. So our technicians are trained. I really wanted to build Gutter Pros as like an HVAC kind of model where you
Okay.
have a technician, not just a guy, and a nice fan, and that technician has an iPad, and his shirt's tucked in, and there's a dispatcher who's like making sure that people go in the right place at the right time, and there's CSRs, the people answering the phone and booking jobs and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to have just more of just an HVAC trades kind of style business instead of a lawn care business that I created. It doesn't have to be this way, but mine was more of a just like me and then all the guys. But I wanted to have a little more structure. I wanted to have it more of a just a different feel to it. And so our technicians, just like an HVAC guy who goes in and says, "Hey, we can service your unit, or we can replace that sucker for you for $30,000." Our guys do the same thing. Well, we'll clean the gutters, but then they do all these upsell opportunities and make sure the client knows there's other ways to spend money with us.
So a little earlier, you said, hey, you spoke with your guys saying, you said, hey, guys, you got to remember, we're serving people. We're not just cleaning
Mm-hmm.
gutters. We're actually serving people. Do you think your team buys into that? Like, do they connect on that?
Oh, that's $1 million question, right? I mean, good question. I hope so, right? I mean,
Right.
there's different mentalities on this. There are some
Sure.
business owners and business talking heads that will say your people will never care as much as you do, and this and that. As long as they care 80%, that's what you really want. And then there's some people out there who I think they're telling the truth too. They say no, you can definitely have people on your team who care just as much as you do. It just depends on who you are. And so honestly, I'm not a genie. I don't really know what the answer is, but I like to think that the latter is true, where I know I have one person at least who cares as much as I do. And I think the other guys care enough.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they definitely care.
Yeah.
And so I think a blend. I'm reading a book right now, actually. I just started it yesterday by Mike Michalowicz, his newest book called
Oh, yeah.
All In. I'm like
Yeah.
3 chapters in, literally. I'm in the middle of it right now. And he's talking about how to get your team completely all in. And so I'm interested to see if I can integrate some of his principles. But honestly, Tyler, I got a call from my main technician on Friday afternoon, and he keeps his hand on the pulse for me and hears what the guys are saying and that kind of stuff. And he said, "Man, I think you've just gone a little bit, not intentionally, not with ill intent, but I think you've just gotten from your messaging, you've gotten a little bit too carried away with revenue and not enough messaging about like doing a good job, things that we used to do in the beginning. Like he said, Adam, in the beginning, the reason you kept me here and I didn't go somewhere else is because you made me feel like $1 million every time we solved someone's problem. And you just don't do that as much." And he was right. He
Wow.
was right. And so this morning I spent 30 minutes just praising the guys and just reiterating how important what they do it is, and the work they do matters. There's a reason that I have Seth Godin on my wall right there with the bird. The work you do matters,
Right.
and we're no matter what it is, as long as you do it with excellence and you do it for someone who cares, our clients matter. And so when we get that client selfie at the end of the job and they're smiling, they're like this, like you are the very most important person in that person's life that in that moment, solving their problem. So I hope it's resonating, but you
Yeah.
never know.
That's cool. No, I mean, the fact that you had that conversation with your leader, your lead, says a lot about you. It's really good open dialogue, and it's cool that he's got your back in terms of sharing his perspective. I do believe, speaking with your team about what you value and how important it is in this case serving your customers, and it's bigger than just cleaning gutters. I really do believe that that conversation's healthy, and it does. I mean, it obviously depends on the individual, but I think it does rub off on the team as a whole, and they know what you stand for. And I think that's really important. Some will choose maybe not to take it to heart as much, and then that's definitely their prerogative. But I think if you have the team as a whole kind of thinking that way, they're going to pull along some of the weaker, I shouldn't say weaker, but some of the people that don't have as strong of thoughts about that. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
help pull them along. So I think it is a value. I think it is cool that you're doing that. I'm sure it has impact. It may not affect everybody, but it will have impact overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Um, so on that same kind of thought process, how do you balance? Because as business owners, we're always focused revenue, profit, we're thinking about money. How are you going to shift gears where, you're still thinking about revenue, but maybe it's a little less transparent from a staff standpoint. Have you thought about how you'll kind of manage that and shift those gears?
So I think I'm not going to stop talking about revenue and productivity and
Yeah.
efficiency and upsells, because that's got to continue for the ship to sail, right?
Right.
But it's just a matter of talking about the other stuff more too. There's always time to talk about other stuff as well. And so, Monday mornings I read aloud all the 5-star reviews that we got the previous week. Um, that's good, but that's not all we have to do. I
Sure.
need to remind the guys that selfies are great. We remind the guys that every as soon as they send that we're on the way text, that's like them stepping onto the steps of the stage. They're not on the stage yet, but they're stepping on the steps, and they get to the top, and then when they walk, they pull in the driveway, they're entering the stage, and then when they knock on that door, they are on the stage performing. And every client deserves a star performance, no matter how many clients it's been. Doesn't matter if the client, if you feel like it or not. It doesn't matter. And none of that stuff. It doesn't matter if this is the 10th client and the first 9 you did a really good job, and then this one's in. It's the end of the day. They don't care. Just like when I go to Chick-fil-A and I get a chicken sandwich, I want it to taste just as good as everybody else's. Not like, well, we made 10,000. No, that's not okay. And so reminding the technicians of that is going to be really important. So I think it's just constantly dancing with both, and I don't think they're at odds with each other at all. I think doing a good job and seeing the work that you do matters is cousins to being productive and being efficient and all that. So I don't think it has to be like at odds or anything.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How do you stimulate reviews? Home service business, reviews are huge. I think they can kind of make or break you type of thing. What do you guys do? Anything in particular to stimulate reviews?
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound trite, but I actually think getting reviews is really easy. I really
Really?
do. I've never found it hard to get reviews. Yeah, I mean, people have told me, "Oh my gosh, I didn't get some reviews," and I don't really know how you don't get them. And I'm not being arrogant. I just don't really get, when we go see 40 clients in a week, it's like, yeah, 8 of those are going to really review pretty much with on clockwork. So a couple of things that we do, we incentivize our technicians. They get paid if they get review. I mean, just it is what it is. Like we pay our technicians to get review. They matter that much to us. And so we put our money where our mouth is. They get $15 each if they get review. They get 30 if their name is in it. If I could go back in time 3 years, I would make those numbers less. It is what it is. I can't do it. I can't do that now, but I bit off a little more than I could chew. But hey, we're at over 500, so I'll take it. But yeah, I have paid out a little bit for those. If I were to do it again, I'd probably do like 5 and 15. But anyway, and
Yeah.
then we use Nice Job. Nice Job is just a very simple app that automates review follow up, and it's super easy. It's like $80 a month. It's like the cheapest thing we use, and it's a no brainer. And that makes that's it. And then when we send the text through Nice Job, the app we use for the review, we include either the person's house with our beautiful van parked in the driveway, just make it a little more personal, If we got a client selfie with that client, then we'll include that photo, which is really compelling. But if you do those 3 or 4 things, it's pretty hard not to get reviews. It just, and it's so important in our business because we have over 500. The next guy only has 3, and the next guy has like 50. And so like now, and if you're in an opposite situation where all your competitors have a ton of reviews, then you don't have a choice because you got to stay up to speed with them. And so either way, it's super critical, especially for high volume people like me, where we're doing high volume lead jobs. It's a no brainer. Just get tons of reviews.
Yeah. Do you find, you give a delineation between if they actually name the technician? Do you ever get, sometimes when you do incentive plans, people, they get out of control a little bit, and then they're kind of harassing your customer to include their name in the review. Do you ever have anybody that's ever complained about that, where they've said, oh man, this guy's on me a little bit too much about reviews, or anything, maybe even in the review
I
that,
wish.
really?
I would prefer that. I would prefer that a little bit within reason
Yeah.
than like me trying to have to, because every now and then we go through seasons where I say, hey guys, we haven't gotten a review in like 2 weeks. What's the deal? And we
Wow.
all know the reason. Oh, clients don't. No. We all know what the reason is. You stopped asking.
Right.
Let's just call for what it is. Because here's the thing: this week, after I get on you guys for it, we're gonna get 7 or 8 right now. And because you guys are going to start asking again. And so I would say our guys err on the side of like not being nice,
Sure.
which we all know that's a terrible word. And so I would prefer them to be a little more aggressive than less aggressive, because I think it shows passion, and I think it shows that they really care. If we get some client who's disgruntled, I'll live with that.
Yeah.
For the exchange of having an army of people asking for reviews, that's more important to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. It brings up the classic issue though, like you're incenting for those reviews, and sometimes for whatever reason, your staff is forgetting. It doesn't sound like it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And it's just weird because it's like, well, there's an incentive tied to it. Why are you guys not remembering that
Yeah.
you can earn an extra $300 a week or whatever that number is? It's interesting. I don't know what the answer is to it, but it's amazing how making people aware of that incentive continually is really what drives their behavior, sometimes more than just the incentive itself, which is hard to
Mm-hmm.
get your mind around. I mean, do you agree with that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, one thing I'm trying to do now is take them to the next level of training. Instead of just saying, "Hey guys, make sure you ask for the review." Well, how do they ask for it? When do they ask for it? Who do they ask for? Do they ask the nanny? Are they asking for the man, the woman? How do they ask it, like cowardly, or do they just say passively, or what do they do? And there's a lot of variable there, lots of variable there. And so when you role play with these guys and say, okay, let's just pretend, you find out, oh, well, now I know why you're not getting reviews. That's obvious, and everyone who's watching knows. It's very obvious. And so you just tweak this, tweak that. And so I think that making sure that you talk to your technicians, and you're practicing with them and role playing the very scenario. One guy, it comes down to the knock. Like, how do you knock? Do you bang on the door, or do you do the friendly knock? Do. That matters. And it even matters the way you set the conversation up. Like in the beginning, you say, "Hey, ma'am, just so you know, we're gonna get started, but I am here to provide you 5-star service. And so at any point, if you feel like we're not quite doing that, I want you to be honest, to let me know so I can make sure that we deliver." And then you sow the seed then. So within the time an hour goes by and you come back around, they're expecting you to bring that back up and say, "Hey, ma'am, I really want you to leave a 5-star review. Don't leave the company one, leave me one." Because we all know that we don't tip the restaurant, we tip the server. And so I tell the technicians all the time, like, make sure you're taking advantage of that truth. And so that's why I want their name in it, honestly. And so anyway, there's ways that you can really help the technician be bold and be aggressive, not aggressive, but bold and confident in this whole thing. And I wouldn't say I'm a master by no means, but I am learning how to do that better.
Yeah. I love though, I mean, you take a very simple topic like getting reviews, and there's so much nuance to it, to down to even knocking on the door, which is true. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, have you ever had that service technician that bangs your door down, and it's like you're immediately put in that state of mind that you're kind of annoyed by, because they're so aggressive with the way they knock? It
Mm-hmm.
seems subtle, but it does have an impact. I'll never forget, you also said something too that I think is a good lesson for us all to be aware of. When I used to have my staffing and recruiting business, we'd actually record calls for new people. We'd have them record their calls, and then we'd listen to them together, and we'd write notes and observations. And that was one of the, as much as it wasn't always liked by everybody, and it was a little bit intimidating. It was the best exercise ever because you would hear people say things to potential clients that would just floor you, their
What?
mannerisms and their, yeah, it's like, I can't believe you just said that. Like
Yeah.
and you just had to get over it as a trainer and just go, hey, this is just something we need to talk about. We need to talk about how to knock on the door because
Mm-hmm.
it's not obviously obvious to some people that it can have an impact on how people are perceiving you.
Mm-hmm.
I had one guy, he was a heavy breather, and it was the worst thing, man. It did not sound like he was just making a phone call, and it was just horrendous. And I just would
Gosh.
squirm every time I heard his recorded calls, and we finally got it fixed. But it's just it's definitely it's good to kind of periodically see what your staff is actually doing on the front lines because
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. You'll learn some stuff.
The next iteration of this we're going to start to implement, and this we're not quite there yet because it takes a little bit of infrastructure, but I'd like to do this within the next few months. And it's actually a takeaway that I got from one of the guests on the Jobber podcast, Masters of Home Service, was like secret shoppers. Now, we all know secret shoppers and stuff, but a lot of times it's not the breakthrough is not the thing that you hear for the first time. It's it's the thing you hear at the right time. And when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, it's time for us to do secret shoppers. Like it's time. And so you just have a client who we will probably charge them half, and say, if you'll fill out this form and give us tons of feedback, we'll just and tell the technicians ahead of time, like, hey, we're gonna be doing secret shoppers. You won't know which one, but we're gonna be doing secret shoppers and mystery shoppers. And then you really find out what they're doing in the field. You really find out how they're knocking, what they're saying, and how they're quoting and how they're closing out and all this kind of stuff. And I'm really looking forward to that because that's when you get the real answers to the test.
Yeah. And I like that you say you're going to tell your staff in advance because I think that's part of
Mm-hmm.
a healthy exercise. It's a good way to treat them. It allows them to not feel like they're being spied upon. So I think that's a big part of that equation too.
Yeah,
That's
because
cool.
the goal isn't to catch them. The
Right.
goal is to do a good job. You want to give the
Exactly.
guys the answers to the test, right? And so you tell them this is what we expect. In fact, this is going to be the form that they have that our clients have. Make sure you hit the form. That way, they do it the way you want them. That's the whole point.
Right. No, that's awesome. That's really a good thing. Hey, how do you just switching gears here? So you have 4 children, you have a wife, you have 2 businesses, successful businesses. How do you manage that? Work-life balance is a huge thing among business owners. It's easy for us to get burned out and just get
Mm-hmm.
tired and drained and hate our business, hate our life, hate everything. How do you work that all out?
That's a big question because so often you see business owners and the tail's wagging the dog. It's not the dog wagging the tail. The business has a hold on the business owner in a way that's unhealthy. And that's been me at times. I won't lie. That's been me. I've been too consumed and not confuse that with like seasons of busyness and then downtimes. There's seasonality to business, but there's also a whole other level of just being dominated by the business and letting it control you. You wake up in the morning, you go to bed, all you're doing all day long, weekends, nights, you're at church on Sunday morning, you're thinking about business, and that's not healthy. And so I do have a lovely wife. Her name's Ashley. We've been married for almost 12 years, and she's awesome. And I have 4 kids, and it is tricky, And so, but here's the deal. This inspires me. I know people who have way bigger businesses than I do, who have more free time than I do, and so if they can do it, they put their pants on just like I do, one leg at a time. And so, but practically speaking, I have some deadlines. I don't really work till past 5, pretty much any time. Occasionally I do, but it's because something happened that caused that. But I'm usually out of here about between 4 and 5. My wife goes to the gym at 4:30, so I gotta be done before that and stuff. And so I do go to work. I go to work early, and so I'm not here in the mornings during the week. But I have 2 phones. I have a work phone and a personal phone, so I turn that off at night and stuff. And um, but basically, like when I was young, my parents were in sales, and I sold with them, sold insurance, and I go to these big conferences, and they get all these income rings and double platinum and all this kind of stuff, big rah events, and this guy would come across the stage and making all this money, and he'd say, oh, "Great, thanks," but my wife hates me, and my kids don't talk to me.
Right.
And so I was 19 years old, and I heard that over and over and over again for years, and it just made me not want that. It just burned that in my brain, and so for me, it's like I just have to build these businesses with the amount of time that I have. Because when I write down the list of priorities for me, it's my faith in the God, it's my wife, and then my kids. Those are top 3. Well, my work isn't even in that list, but I spend tons of time doing that stuff, and which is fine. It doesn't have to be a linear thing, but I have to make sure that like I want my kids to like me when they're older.
Sure.
When my kids move out, I want my marriage to still be strong.
Right.
And all those things matter way more than my businesses. Now, my businesses are really important because they fuel those things too. So it's a dance, right? As you know, it's a dance. And so I'm not sure that answers the question, but I'm doing my best to balance the two or three things. Sometimes I
Yeah.
fail.
No, I think
Sometimes
it's a great answer. I think the biggest takeaway I got is that you're cognizant, you're aware that you've got to balance these things and you do your best to do it. And one of your priorities is to make sure your kids know you as they grow up and go through different phases of school and life.
mm-hmm.
So I think those are cool. Those are cool, ambitious things you're trying to focus on. Hey, going back to Masters of Home Service, your podcast, you did mention the secret shopper as one thing you took away from one of your guests. Are there any key takeaways? Because you've interviewed some really cool people. I'm on that list. I don't know if I'm one of the
Oh yeah,
cool people, but
top
I'm
of the
definitely on
list
the
for
list.
sure.
Anything you have taken away over the years that you've applied into your business that stand out?
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind, and this is really specific, but a buddy of mine, Phil, he's the
Yeah,
owner of
Phil.
Flash Consulting. He was telling the podcast listeners, me included, how you can use AI to automatically respond to 5-star reviews on Google. What it's my kryptonite. I hate that. And you know me, we're high volume, so we get a lot of reviews, and it's the worst. Sitting down and trying to respond uniquely to every single 5-star review, I hated it. It drove me
I could
crazy.
see.
It would back up. We have like 20 or 30. I would never catch up. It's terrible. And so now what happens? As soon as someone leaves a review, it's unique, it's fresh, it uses keywords, it's set up, it's automatic. I never have to touch it again. And I love that. And I got that from Phil on the podcast. And so there's other things like that too. But I love that little takeaway. But the podcast was really inspiring too, because you're in the room with other people just like you who are slogging away. Some of them are, they're owner operators. They're very much in the business doing the work, which is fine. Others in my view, had scaled up to a place where they had created jobs for people. And so they were leading and or organizing the business in a way that like is sustainable, which is very inspiring. And so when you have all these different people in a room and they all have all these great ideas and all these fresh takes, and it's just a very inspiring podcast, in my opinion.
It really is. The night I went out to dinner before I went home, I sat with three different people. One was running a multi-million-dollar coaching service and had
Mm-hmm.
just tons of stories. He was sharing one left and right. Another was a 22-year-old kid that was running a $1 million landscaping lawn care type
Chase,
business,
yeah,
which just
yeah,
blew
totally
my
cool.
mind. And then another guy was sharing his story about how he used to have a partner that was screwing him out of
Oh
most of the
yeah.
business. And it was just, I mean, you just one night of dinner, you get all these stories and experiences, and it just blew my mind. So you do
Mm-hmm.
have some really cool guests with some really awesome stories that they just openly share. And Phil, I would
Mm-hmm.
argue Phil, Mr. Flash Consulting, he's probably one of the most seen people on LinkedIn. I swear every time I go on there, that dude has some type of tidbit or useful piece of information that he's doing a video on. So yeah, really
Totally.
good group of people. So
Feels good. There's a couple on the podcast, and they're all about family planning and making sure that their kids are set up for the future. And some of the stuff they had was really insightful and stuff. And I'll be honest, it was a little like jolting for me, because I felt like I was a little behind with my kids. And their 2-year-old is like an employee of the business, and a Roth IRAs, all that kind of stuff. And just thinking about that kind of thing, I hadn't in a while. And so just having them talk about the way they do their things and things they teach and everything was very like eye-opening to me, and reminded me, oh, I need to like do that stuff. And so anyway, that is one example, but there's others. But yeah, the podcast has been very, very good for me.
yeah, it would go without mentioning too. Jobber is the one that sponsors it, correct? And Jobber is
Mhm.
software for the home service business. Do you want to talk? I'd love to even give them just a little plug. Do you want to talk about Jobber a little bit? Do you use it in your business? Is that correct?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I use Jobber for both companies. It's funny. I looked at Jobber for the first time, I think in 2014, and which was 10 years ago. And at the time I thought, nah, this is just a glorified Google Calendar. So I didn't sign up until 2018. And little did I know that'd be the host of their podcast 10 years later. But yeah, I use it for both businesses. And it's super strong. You know, they're on the cutting edge of a lot of new features like online booking and some AI concepts they've introduced and some marketing tools they've introduced. You can email all your clients. It's like it's not as good as MailChimp yet, but it's a MailChimp substitute all within their software. For my lawn care business, they have automatic invoicing, which I've looked at other softwares and other softwares do as well, but it's I don't think it's as good as Jobber's. It's Jobber's is like perfectly seamless. And so every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, all my lawn care clients get billed for their services the week before. I'm eating dinner. There's no trigger. There's no click. It just happens in the background, just like their Netflix subscription. And so between both companies, I use pretty much all their features between both. Routing optimization is really key. So yeah, Jobber is really sweet. And the best thing about Jobber is our clients routinely will say, "Are you guys a franchise?" Because they associate such a professional software
Wow.
with like a franchise. And I say, "Nope, just Jobber."
Yeah. Yeah. I have several clients to use it too. And it continues to keep getting better and better with features they add. Like you mentioned the MailChimp like features.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps getting better. It's definitely in the home service business space. I mean, that would be probably the top one. I mean, I know there's some others, but I'm not even sure if they're in the same league.
Mm-hmm.
And Jobber's just a great company. I had such a great experience when I came out with you. I mean, they're just such a cool group of people and how they treat you.
Mm-hmm.
It's, one thing that I thought about them, which we talked a little bit here, is just living your core values as a business. I mean, you can tell they have a certain set of core values in terms of excellent customer service, excellent quality, and they kind of live it all the way through. I love when you kind of can see that when you interact with the company as a customer, and you can just see
Mm-hmm.
their values come out in terms of actually living them. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, the podcast is right on brand with Jobber. It's
Yeah.
really well done. It's really well executed. It's well produced. The graphics and the brand and it visually looks stunning, just like Jobber's platform. So everything's in line. Jason, Ryan, and Tina, they're in charge of the podcast. They're high end people. They're really top performers over there, and Jobber is better for them. But the whole Jobber brand is really solid. And if any of your listeners don't know what Jobber is or looking for a new CRM to run their business, I would definitely encourage them to look at Jobber.
Yeah.
Especially
Very cool.
if they're sub 5 million, then Jobber is definitely a good choice. If they're above that, then they might want to look at some other ones as well. Not that Jobber wouldn't work, but like, if they're like a huge HVAC company, then it probably won't work. But for most sub five, Jobber's it.
Yeah. And Jobber, I'll put that in the show notes at thinktyler.com. It's Jobber.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just before I wrap up here, what do you kind of see in your future in terms of where you want to take your businesses as you intertwine it with your personal life? What do you kind of see ahead?
So I used to think about 2 years ago, I used to think that I wanted to just take over. I thought I wanted to have all these locations and franchise and have this huge network of businesses and this web of gutter cleaning all over the state of Virginia and beyond. And as I've gotten clarity on this over the last 12 months, that's actually not what I wanted. What I want now is a $5 million business. Lawn care is out of the picture right now. It would still be there, but we're talking about gutters.
Sure.
A $5 million business with about 20 technicians and a whole office staff and structure or org structure, so that things can just hum with me being the leader. I want a 10,000 square foot facility with 2 stories where we can park the vans indoors at night, which would be really sweet. And I want a line out the door of qualified candidates who want to work here. That's what I want. And if I could have that, which I think I will have that, then I'll be able to live my life with my wife, my kids, my friends, my employees. Because my mission statement is to create environments where people I care about thrive. First, my family, then my team, then my clients. And if I can realize that goal, then I'll be a happy camper. No matter how big and grandeur it is, that's what I really want.
Yeah. So when you think about a $5 million a year business, how much would that, have you ever done any analysis in terms of like how big would you need to get in terms of geography? Would you have to be in multiple states? What does that look like?
It's a great question. And it's a deep one because,
Yeah.
there's like every house has an HVAC system and there's 30 HVAC companies in my city and they're all doing $5 to $10 million a year. Every house in Charlottesville has gutters too. But like, smaller average ticket. So I don't know the answer to that really, Tyler. I don't know what the market cap is, so to speak,
Yeah.
of my town. I think I can do 5 million here without going anywhere else. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. because we live in a small town, but I'm pretty sure we can. There's a lot of money here. It's big enough, and so I think we can just stay in Charlottesville. And in the
Yeah.
next 5 years, I think we'll be there, and then and sustain and then once we're at 5, I'll look around and say, hey, do I want to go out further? I can always do that if I want to.
Sure.
Or I can say, no, what if we get this this net from like 15% to 18 to 20 to 22? What if we get this net profit somehow to like 25%? I mean, that'd be awesome, right? And so you don't always have to grow tall and wide. You can also grow internally healthy. You can grow strong. And that's what I want. I want to have a strong business, not necessarily Arnold Schwarzenegger humongous. I want to have a strong business that runs and it's fun to run, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you say, if you can move the needle on those percentages, whether that be gross profit or net profit or operating expenses, lowering them, whenever you look at those little percentages and you can move them a little bit, they can have such a big impact overall on your bottom line. It like blows my mind.
You're so right, Tyler, and you know this because
Yeah.
you're a math finance guy, but like 1% of a really big number is a big number. And so if you can do that over and over and over again, it's like, oh, well, I only shaved off this and shaved off that. Well, yeah, but that's going to be like a lot of money to like put in your college tuition savings account. Like think about, like every hair that really came clear to me when I started actually budgeting for my business and actually started going back and making like and actually reconciling my budget and forecasting all that. Like, man, if we do this revenue and then these expenses and this labor and this, then we're going to have 8% net profit. That's not enough for me. So what are we going to cut? Okay, let's try to hit 12. And because otherwise it's just all funny money. And you're no different than the federal government. But if you actually sit down and like make sure that you actually visualize how your business is going to perform this year, and then you have like guidelines to hit, it's way more effective.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I love when you get fired up. Whenever we talk about numbers, you get fired up. I don't know if you realize that. I remember
I didn't realize
the first night I met you, we went out for we had a dinner and you just as soon as we started talk about numbers, you were just like lighting up.
It's yeah, I agree with that. It's important.
I love it. Hey, so your website, adamsylvester.com, adamsylvester.com. I'll put this in the show notes at thinktyler.com. And then, of course, I'll also put Jobber and then some other things that you've mentioned. If people wanted to reach out to you, is that the place to go or is there anywhere else they should be going?
Yeah, adamsylvester.com has me. It's points to all my businesses, points to Jobber, all that kind of stuff. It has my phone number on there if they want to go see that and reach out to me. But yeah, I'd love to connect with people and hear their stories of business and see if I can help with anything. I probably can't, but if I can help, I will. But yeah, adamsylvester.com is the place to find me.
You're the best. Okay, hey Adam, thanks so much for being on the show. I can't thank you enough. You've shared a ton of wisdom like you always do. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Take care, man.